Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And it's our second full pod out of training camp. We got Jordan Raanan on of ESPN later to talk about the Giants' practices so far. And the offense continues to look really well, and we'll start off with that, Justin. But it's, we've been through 5 practices, and it's kind of been like, all right, is the defense going to like have a day? Just not like maybe make some play here, but just have a day where like defense definitely won today. And obviously you worry a little bit about the defense, but it's really nice to see the offense continuing to like thrive. Yeah,
it's been super fun. Honestly, I'm getting a little too excited, and it's leading me to think of some big picture stuff about if the I'm just going to get right to it. If the Giants offense can move the ball somewhat like this, like in camp, they're doing it with ease. And I'm not saying they're going to move the ball with ease no matter what defense they face throughout this season, right? Cowboys is a good early test. 49ers is going to be a good early test. But games and difficult games against good opponents get a lot easier if your offense is better. And we're seeing them move the ball with efficiency, and things are just coming so much more natural and easy to this offense. Things are like Jordan Raanan used the word comfortable. I think Art Stapleton also probably used the word comfortable last week in describing Daniel Jones. And I would say, it's not like Daniel Jones is taking this huge leap. Daniel Jones looks much comfortable with much better, relative to the last couple years, much better skill position players around him, and that is such a nice breath of fresh air so far in Giants camp.
I want to talk about the offense from a few dynamics, especially in the receiving core. First episode was brought to you by Kaz Pierce. This is actually Antonio Pierce's son, and Brent. I went on like Brent Musburger's app or whatever the other day, and then Evan Smith. His name's Evan, last name Smith.
Wow.
Not what's an Evan for the Giants?
Drew Smith. Not it.
Evan
Roberts.
There was Evan Roberts.
Shane Smith.
Justin, who are these people?
Shane Smith?
Who's Shane Smith and Evan Smith?
Was in the fullback?
Yeah, Shane Smith was the fullback.
Figured it out. Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. $2 a month plus some of the tiers. You're going to hang out with us live while we record the shows. We got about 30 people in here right now talking some Giants training camp with us and all that jazz. Bobby Skinner, when he gets back to Florida, we'll send you some stickers in the mail. And there's some shirt raffles. I think I already said that. Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. Thanks to our patrons. We love you so much.
Yeah, we love you guys. So today we saw the Giants just kind of move the ball, like first and 10, and then move the ball. And you mentioned it, man. They are becoming more aggressive on offense, and they have the pieces to do it. Today we saw a throw to Jalin Hyatt in 11-on-11, and it was the throw that we've been asking for, where it's the thing that you can consistently go to Daniel Jones's film last year and pick, not nitpick, just pick. Like, this is a real consistent flaw, is that when they would face zone coverages that had like a high safety and a flat corner, a cloud corner, they would have that middle, it's like the hole on the sideline, and Jones would not throw it. Well, guess what? What was to me, the best play of the day was Jalin Hyatt running that concept, and Daniel Jones fires it in there. Jalin Hyatt makes a tough catch with Xavier McKinney right there on him.
Diving.
Yeah, and completes it. And it was like, one, it's awesome to see Hyatt specifically, because he's the one receiver where it's like, we don't know what you are. Like, you have a very high ceiling. How much of that are you going to realize? And then just Daniel Jones, one, doing it accurately, but like pulling the trigger on that throw. There was a back shoulder to Paris Campbell. Like, Paris Campbell's not really the back shoulder guy. And we're seeing all this on a Darren Waller rest day. Like, we talked about how great Darren Waller is. Yeah. He still is. He's still leading them in receptions.
Yeah, last couple days since our last pod, Darren Waller has kind of taken a backseat, and that's not because he hasn't taken a backseat because he's been out there. It's because other people have been coming up, and he's been getting like some vet days.
Yeah, and then another like perfectly placed ball to Campbell in the corner. Slayton's created big plays since the last time that we've been on the podcast. So they're consistently trying to push the ball downfield. They're also hitting the interior. And then today we saw, without Darren Waller practicing, because we kind of had that conversation, like, let's see what this offense looks with if Darren Waller is to miss a game. They were checking it down more. Saquon had 4 catches today. But they were still able to move the ball and be efficient. And like you said, we just 3 big plays created today without Darren Waller on the field.
Yeah. Did you see on some of the highlights that the Giants have posted? You can't really see it when you're there, since we don't have this view. But on the field, there's a red line that's between the hash marks, but it's closer to the sideline.
Yeah.
So when receivers are running vertical routes down the field, what they're doing, and I think what that indication is for Jones or the receivers, I would like to hear some sort of explanation on it in case I'm not explaining it right. But there's a red line. There's usually not red lines on football fields. There's a red line of the receivers know and Jones knows. That's when you kind of have to break and then look for the ball to go towards the sideline and towards maybe kind of like that outside shoulder to kind of get those back shoulder throws. And that's really like the main difference between this camp and so many other years where Garrett, Judge, those years, it was just so tough to operate on offense where everything had to be so perfect. And if it wasn't the perfect game plan, if Daniel Jones didn't nearly have like a perfect passer rating with 80 to 85% completion rate, if he wasn't so perfect and the Giants would barely score like 24 or 27 points in those games where the quarterback was perfect, right? Where now it just seems like things can come to the Giants easier. And even when guys are kind of pseudo covered on the sideline, well, if the quarterback has the trust and the chemistry with his receivers to put the ball on back shoulder or hole shot in between zones and levels of zones towards the sideline, you see the best offenses in the NFL. Offense just looks so easy to them, like 15-yard plays, or you could just snap your finger and get them like that. Whereas the Giants, every 15-yard play, you're getting up and you're celebrating. And that's been cool to see this camp so far.
Yeah, they've just been able to do win in different ways, right? And like I remember talking about it, like 4 verts is a play that I would throw out there 3-4 times a game, and they've been like running that. And it's like, hey, if you're gonna do a single high cover 3, we're going to get it up the seams. If you're going to play off coverage, we're going to turn the outside routes into curls. If you play tight man coverage, we got somebody that's going to go out there and win that matchup and throw the ball to.
And there was a play today. I don't think it was 4 verts, but it was a 2nd and 10. Paris Campbell goes in motion at the snap from right to left. There are 2 or 3, whether Waller was out there or another tight end or what. It wasn't Waller because this was team periods, but whether it was 2 or 3 other receivers out there, they're pulling safeties and DBs down the field, while Paris Campbell on this 2nd and 10 is running a little swing pass, little swing route coming out of the backfield. And because you have those guys running deep down the field, it sets Paris Campbell up where he gets a 7-8 yard gain on 2nd down, and boom, that turns into a 3rd and 2 and a 3rd and short. And that's awesome stuff. Yeah. So it's not even just about the explosive plays. It's about, well, how can you turn this 2nd and long, or even if you have a false start on a 1st down and it turns to the 1st and 15, 2nd and 15, how can you get a 1st down, and how can you make offense easier from there where everything doesn't have to be so perfect? And it just seems like with the talent that they added, Jones' 2nd year in the system, all of it hopefully just seems to be adding up really well. Yeah,
and Jalin Hyatt starting to be more involved with the first team, and even on he's had 2 days in a row where he just splits the field for the second team and creates big like touchdowns where he's like in college just wide ass open because he runs past everybody.
The speed is real. Like we it's rare to see like, oh, you have a draft pick and you expect him to do something. And I know it's still camp and he's got to get out there and, hey, team, you're not Wink Martindale's defense isn't game planning for Jalin Hyatt, but I kind of like that he's not doing it when they're not game planning for him, because when you have to game plan for Jalin Hyatt to do it, hopefully that's going to open up some other guys to do it too. He's doing it. He's out here and he's doing at least what he was expected to do in his rookie year, and that's really be fast and really expand the field.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the wide receiver dynamic right now. So I'm actually going to do a little math in my head. So
let's do a quick little math.
19, 27, 33, 37, 40. So there's been 48 completions in 11 on 11.
Okay. First team.
Yeah, from Daniel Jones.
Okay.
Darren Waller leads them in receptions. He has 10. Now, 15 of the completions happened today with Darren Waller not on the field.
And he still leads.
At one point out of 33 completions, Waller had 10. So Waller is the number 1 target in this offense.
Yeah.
That is without a doubt. But a question all offseason is, how does the wide receiver room play out? And I'm telling you, everyone likes to pick their favorite, the new guy, Paris Campbell, the hot flavor Isaiah Hodgins that came on at the end of the season. Well, guess who has the second most, and guess who not only has the second most, but creating the biggest plays? Again, with 9 receptions, Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton is continuing to create plays for the Giants. I'm telling you, I really think this guy's going to lead them in receiving yards for the wide receiver group. Paris Campbell might lead them in receptions, but I think Slayton's going to lead them there. Paris Campbell now has 8 catches, so 1 behind Slayton. Saquon has 6. 8 guys have 1, and then Hodgins has 4, and Bellinger has 3. I'm telling you, it's with the Hyatt as they want to plan him. It seems like, and then if Shep comes back, who plays a similar way to Hodgins, it seems like Hodgins may be the guy who is sacrificing snaps for this team, because they're not really taking Slayton off the field. They're really taking out Hyatt Campbell, and when they do take Campbell out, it's for Cole Beasley.
And even there's some packages where we've seen Paris Campbell and Cole Beasley on the field at the same time, and Campbell's on the outside.
Yeah, so it's like, and Hodgins I think is going to be really valuable in the red zone, and that's when we saw his best day, is when they worked on red zone.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, but what does he do between the 30s,
third and
right?
short.
And we saw, like, on day 2, he got targeted deep down the sideline, could have make a contested catch. Deonte Banks breaks it up.
Yeah.
So it's like Hodgins' role. To me, I think it's like, he obviously has a role. I think he's going to be valuable in the red zone, but I don't like, if you ask me who's going to have the most receptions and yards, Hodgins to me is 3rd behind Slayton and Campbell for me right now.
As of now, we'll see how the cookie crumbles, and there's been no injuries, so
we've been talking about the tight ends today with Waller as a rest. We talked about Lawrence Cager making the team as the 3rd tight end.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this in the last game, but I do want to repeat it because I'm planting my flag. They were in the red zone today as they were moving the ball, and they kept on looking to Cager with Waller out there. And they, on the left side of the field, they would have Hodgins and Cole Beasley. And it's
who
like,
was
man,
number 1 and number 2, who you would want to target.
Those
in that
are
situation.
red zone targets. Those are route runners. And who wins in the red zone?
Yeah.
Route runners.
Yeah.
And that's when the checkdowns were coming. Whereas when, like, hey, they had Slayton, like, Slayton's not a great red zone threat. You had Slayton and Cager's just not. If you're trying to use him as a poor man's Waller,
Lawrence Cager's not Darren Waller.
Yeah, it's like it's just not gonna bring you the success. Yeah. So I think I'm at a point now where who's going to be 3rd tight end, and then, hey, we're doing a 3rd tight end segment. I want a blocker. So if that's Chris Meyer, can't be stopped, or Tommy Sweeney, that's who I want as the 3rd tight end on this team. Because if Waller goes down, I don't want us trying to replace his role with Lawrence Cager. If Waller goes down, I want this offense going back to having 2 tight ends on the field that can block, and that would be Chris Myrick or Tommy Sweeney.
And you would think, like, this coaching staff that adjusted totally changed their offense in the early part of the season last year to this, we're trying to look downfield to, okay, we're going to run the ball and we're going to become, with all the Wildcat shit that they did towards the early part of last year, you would think that they would be okay with, all right, if Darren Waller goes down. And this isn't even a reflection on Lawrence Cager. This is a reflection on how good Darren Waller is, and like what they're asking Darren Waller to do. There's not a lot of tight ends in the game that I feel like can really do what they're asking Darren Waller to do. And Lawrence Cager certainly doesn't have the route running, the quickness, the short area quickness that Darren Waller has. So you would think that if Darren Waller goes down, okay, well, we want to have Lawrence Cager in there so we don't have to completely change the offense. But if that is going to wind up being a negative for the entire offense because Lawrence Cager shouldn't be the number 1, you would think that this coaching staff would be able to adjust, similar to like they did last year when everything went wrong, and go back to using those 2 tight ends.
Well, and today was the first time they did it, and I would assume that they probably do. Like, and I understand it. Like, Lawrence Cager, he's a talent. Like, I understand wanting to work that out, but I view it as kind of like last year when we talked about Saquon. They were trying to make him a receiver in the red zone, and then they went away from it because it's just like, this is not working. This is like, we're trying to, like Cager, we're trying to work these mismatches, but it's all about route running.
And this is where I disagree. This is where I will also give you a slight disagree to you. I think this is camp, and I think they're working through stuff, and I think they're working out stuff. So I don't think in a game we're going to get to it where Giants versus Cowboys week 1, Darren Waller's off the field for whatever reason. All right, this is our goal line package. Lawrence Cager's going to be the number 1 guy that we target here. I don't think they're going to have that game plan and go into it and view it like that.
No,
but
I
if you're not going to have that
if
you're not going to have that game plan and view it like that, then why not just have I would agree with you that it is more of an advantage to have like 2 blocking tight ends on the roster instead of a guy that is like Darren Waller light that can't be Darren Waller.
Yeah, I mean, if Lawrence Cager was ever going to separate himself for the Giants, it would have been last year.
Yeah, not fully, no.
And it's just he can make some plays. He's got speed. You get him the ball in space, he can do some things. But I'd rather have that blocking tight end. Yeah. You know, he's just.
And wouldn't you even rather?
He's not a good enough mismatch to be a 0 as a blocker.
And wouldn't you even rather have the third tight end, because they are putting Darren Waller out wide more than I thought.
No, I agree. I don't care if Waller's healthy or not. I want third tight end to be Myrick or Sweeney,
which I think it is going to be Cager right now, just based on early like observations from the stance and how they're using Cager and how they're operating with him, where it's not Chris Myrick or Tommy Sweeney. I don't even know if he's a thought right now. I would rather have take Darren Waller off the field if you want to have like a pure running formation. And it's not like Myrick and Bellinger can't catch the ball, so you don't totally become one-dimensional.
Bellinger can be a solid receiver.
Yeah, you don't totally become one-dimensional.
I actually think Bellinger's going to be like if we're just we're at the 4-yard line, best formation. To me, it's Waller, Bellinger, Hodgins, and either Beasley or Shepard.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see that for sure.
I think that's the best option.
Wow, an unexpected third tight end conversation.
Very nice. Why don't you talk to us about DraftKings, and then we'll talk about Deonte Banks and Trey Hawkins.
Deonte Banks, Trey Hawkins. I want to see if we can fit in some practice structure stuff too, since Jordan Raanan didn't really he didn't really talk about that, but I want to talk about it because I do think it's different. So DraftKings Sportsbook, they're back. Football's coming back. That's right. New customers, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code WORLD. Talking Giants versus the World. Bet just $5 to score $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code WORLD. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline.ma.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700 on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. Kansas City and West Virginia, gambling problem? Call 1-800 or visit www.1800gambler.net. All games regulated by the West Virginia Lottery. Please play responsibly in partnership with Hollywood Casino and Charlestown Races. And in Connecticut, help is available for Promptly Gamble. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies in jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook details and specific gambling responsibility resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. One boost per eligible game. Opt-in required. Max bet $50. 10 plus leg requirement for 100% boost. Eligibility wagering and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook for DraftKings.com/baseball terms. You'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. So it's been two different camps for the rookie cornerbacks. We'll start with Trey Hawkins. We've been talking about Trey Hawkins a lot on the live streams after camp reports.
Yeah.
And after Sunday, so he had the interception versus Bryce Ford on one-on-ones. He was doing good against the second team. And then on Sunday, he just made a couple plays that stood out. Like Sterling Shepard comes in, they motion him, they get Shepard like a running start by motioning him and put him on a crosser. And Hawkins from off coverage, reroutes Shepard and then undercuts it and gets a pass breakup. And then Tyrod Taylor threw a deep pass. He overthrew Jalin Hyatt, which is hard to do. So Jalin Hyatt what does Jalin Hyatt do when he's overthrown? Never slow down, run at full speed. Guess who's right there in his hip pocket? Trey Hawkins. So we're talking about excitement about him. Are we overhyping it though? What should we take out of Trey Hawkins' practices so far? Should we relax? Well, it looks like we weren't the only ones to hype. The Giants on Monday practiced Trey Hawkins only got first team reps.
And I think that to answer your question, what should we do with Trey Hawkins having a good first week of camp? What you should do is you should reward him by giving him making him a starter, but giving him first team reps, which is exactly what they did.
Yeah, they did a little bit with Adoree in the slot, and then they just turned it into an Adoree rest day after the first series.
No Adoree in the slot.
And
unless your best wide receiver's in the slot.
Yeah, if we're playing CeeDee Lamb, Adoree could play in the slot. And just gave him starter reps out there. Now, there was that perfect throw to Paris Campbell that was over Hawkins, but it still wasn't bad coverage. And this guy has the size and the athleticism to be a good corner.
You all right?
I was ready to go under the table because I refuse to sneeze on camera.
Oh, I thought you saw like a rat, and I was about to flip out.
A rat, I would just joke about it if I saw a rat.
I was about to flip out.
I would kill it live on
Please don't
the
ever
podcast.
don't ever do that again. Especially when we're in the same room.
So, I mean, Hawkins has the speed and athleticism, so it was good to see him get some reps with the first team, and he didn't look lost or anything. He wasn't getting picked on, so they were playing a little more zone, not as much man coverage. But still, like, I was focusing in on Hawkins, and he looked fine. Like, he held his own out there.
Yeah.
So that was encouraging to see, and I'm excited to see him in preseason and how he develops.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hawkins deserves more time. I think he deserves more time with the first team, and he fits perfectly with what Wink Martindale's kind of asking him to do. I think because he's so physical that even if, hey, he's a little sloppy here, maybe a little I don't know. It's 6th round pick. He's not no prospect is ever perfect, but because of how physical he is, I think that can help him out. And we know he's already a really good athlete to begin with, and that is going to help him as well.
On the other side, you have Deonte Banks, who did have his best practice in the 5th practice, had a breakup on a Darius Slayton pass, wasn't picked on. But overall, if there's like who has been the worst performer, forget like second team versus second team, just who has looked the worst.
Yeah.
It's been Deonte Banks. Like, he has really, really looked like lost out there at times. And especially in man coverage, like, he's continuously losing at the release.
And that the way in which he's losing is not surprising you, right?
No, because he's losing at the release, and it's like, well, you don't you have all that speed, but you can't just rely on recovering in the NFL. So Slayton's like gotten 2 big catches over him, and even like passed a little underthrown, but they were still able to catch him because there's so much separation. Obviously Waller's made him look silly a couple times, but like basically like, if you looked at all the highlights like that we post and stuff, almost all of them were coming against Deonte Banks. Even guys like Bryce Ford Wheaton, winning, and Jeff Smith or whoever, he has been like really struggling. They had a better practice, but I just want to talk about it because he's going to struggle. For Banks, as a guy who was picked 24th, not a top 10 pick, he needs to have time to grow. We just need to see growth out of him. And we saw it when they were playing a lot of zone coverage on day 5, which is something we talk about. He looks more comfortable. He plays more free because, hey, you're kind of getting to your back pedal and not worrying about that. So I want to see improvement out of him, but it's looking right now like he's someone that's going to struggle this season, and it's going to be like, hey, we have to, give safety shade help over the top. But I just want to see improvement throughout. But we're here at camp, and it's been, it's like every play. It's like good play for the offense. Banks again.
Well, is this just fan fiction? It's just my brain, or can we get football that works like this, Bobby, where you have Adoree Jackson, Cordell Flott in man-to-man, and then you have Deonte Banks, working some kind of zone where he's dropping back, and like you said, he's getting safety help, but we've had corners basically since 2020 where Patrick Graham and Jerome Henderson come in here and they're actually smart, where it seems like we always have one weaker corner, but the defense is relatively okay. So can we have kind of our slot corner and our number 1 corner doing something different than what Deonte Banks is doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You can, do cloud coverages and different things like that. But again, it's about the release. He needs that needs to be the work on the release, because if there's a play to be made downfield, Banks will make it. Like, he will go and play through the ball and break up passes. It's really about the release, and that's something we talked about in our draft recap. He struggles at the release, and like those are issues. And there's times in zone where he can kind of get lost with if guys get to his blind spots, but it has been really bad. Like, it's been like, the first round pick is always going to be a big topic of the first week of training camp. And it has been like, man, it would be fun to see more out of him. But again, it's training camp. Let him work through his struggles, get better. And I just want to see improvement. Yeah. I want to see some linear improvement out of Deonte Banks. Like, once we're, week 1, I don't think he should be having the same struggles. He may not be, he might be our weakest corner week 1, but we shouldn't be having him where he's looking silly. He's too good of an athlete to be that.
Yeah. All right. I guess maybe we can do some housekeeping of some injury stuff, because then I want to talk about like practice format. Full pads are tomorrow, or full pads are today while you're listening to this and stuff like that. JC Housen, whatever.
Hausenauer, center. He's out.
He's out
long-term
out for the
surgery.
year. Not my fault. If people want to start blaming me for injuries, not
Triceps.
my fault. And also, he was probably not going to make the team, so I won't. I'm going to have to fall on the sword eventually when somebody gets hurt. But guess what? It hasn't happened yet, and we're a week into camp, and this new playing surface. Hey, I'm saying it's working. And I kind of tweeted out before camp started. I said I hope an X factor of this training camp is the new field, and it is the new playing surface. And yeah, it has been so far. And I know it's not a sexy talking point, but how different is this year's camp? The fact that everyone is just out there practicing versus last year, where tackles have to snap the ball. Guards have to line up at tackle because there's nobody left on the offensive line. All the wide receivers are going down. Interior linebackers, you feel like every year guys get hurt. It's been no one. And that's super awesome. And I think that is attributed to the new surface, but also it's the way that the practices are structured with Brian Dable.
Yeah, so what they've been doing is they do 10 a.m., then 5 p.m. the next day. So give the nice rest between practice 2 and 3.
And whenever there's a 5 p.m. practice, the next day is an off day.
Yeah, the next day is an off day. So, and that's how they're like, that wasn't like a one-time thing. That's how they are formatting it.
Yeah.
Also, usually you're in full pads day 4. They're not getting into full pads until day 6.
Yeah.
Now, I think shoulder pads in practice and full pads really don't make as much a difference as people make it out to be, because you're still doing this. Like, you're not tackling guys to the ground. You're not cut blocking guys in practice.
And nobody wears knee pads and thigh pads anymore. So,
Yeah. So you can get a good idea of everything with, shoulder pads on. Without shoulder pads, it's not as much. But with shoulder pads on, you can get a pretty damn good feel for everything that's going on.
There's just a different mindset when it comes to O-line, D-line when you're in full pads. I think that's where it kind of comes in. So
we haven't even seen one-on-ones yet. Like next Friday's episode is going to be let's talk about Evan Neal
O-line,
episode,
D-line.
whether it's good, bad, or horrible.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching the wide receiver DBs, but I'm really looking forward to Tuesday's practice and then therefore Friday's ep to recap. All right, we see these guys in full pads. Let's talk some like O-line, D-line. Let's get it. Let's talk some John Michael Schmitz, Evan Neal development, left guard battle. Is there a right guard battle? Question mark. We'll see as time kind of goes on. But, so I was even thinking about this today, because the way that Dable's been going about like veteran kind of rest days, to Monday's practice was the most intense so far, I think, simply from like a running standpoint and a moving standpoint. 11 on 11 was popping, and they were kind of going with pace. They had some 7 on 7s too. Towards the latter part of practice, you would have first team, second team, third team. They would drive down the field. They would score a touchdown. Offense would eventually score a touchdown. Both offense and defense. Full sprint, 100 yards, down to the other end of the field. They run some more goal line plays, and then boom, then the next unit would come in after that. That's not something that we've seen so far. I thought Joe Judge was the only terrorist that made people run. Anyway, sorry, I had to throw that in there. But it made sense to see how kind of quote unquote more intense that Monday's practice was. That Darren Waller, take a little time off. Jihad Ward got the full practice off. Adoree Jackson, take a little time off, because this is my theory heading into Tuesday's practice, 5 p.m. They're going to get maximal time from when they were practicing on Sunday, those veterans that got time off. Plus, you're going to have the off day. Plus, you're going to have 5 p.m. the next day, full padded practice. I hope everybody's out there, because if it's a 5 p.m. practice and you have off on Wednesday, hey, let's get a really good, intense practice with everybody in there, and then we'll have the day off Wednesday.
Yeah, everyone that can practice will practice on Wednesday.
Yeah, and that includes Waller.
Yeah. Absolutely. Ward is dealing with something.
Yeah? You think he's dealing with something?
I'm pretty sure it's something just minor, but he is dealing with something. Do we have anything else before we kick it to the interview?
No, but I just wanted to highlight that, because I feel like it's really, really important. And there is, like, Brian Dable doesn't really go into detail when they talk with the beat, and Jordan didn't really go into detail when we kind of talk with him. But I think that is like one of the, along with the offense, and we talk corners and shit like that, I think the way that the practices are structured and the fact that they're so healthy, knock on wood right now, And there's a science to it, and they use the GPS tracking data to evaluate how fast are guys running, how far are guys running, does this guy need a maintenance day, does that guy need a maintenance day. It's made a difference this summer, and the fact that we have everybody here is why we're able to evaluate the offense at full strength and everything like that.
Yep. All right, here's Jordan Raanan in the van of ESPN. All right, we now welcome on to the van in the program, Jordan Raanan of ESPN. Second time in the van, so year 2 in the van.
It's like the giant version of Bang Bus, basically.
Basically, the ESPN employees, very funny.
Yeah, you might have to eliminate that.
Nice shirt.
What's it like to cover?
You like it?
Yeah.
What's it like to cover a camp where the offense is just really good, or at least better than the defense?
Now, don't
It's
come in
rare.
here and poo-poo on the parade.
No, the offense has been good.
Okay,
It's rare.
there
I
you
mean, so I always tell the story, and I think I probably told the story here last year. When you come in the first year of a new offense, your offense usually is a disaster out there. Like Eli Manning, when McAdoo came, like 3 interceptions a day. Like, no joke. It was a total disaster. And last year, the offense at the same time, like when you get further along in the offense, the more you get continuity, the better the offense is going to look. And this offense has looked good. And you know what? What's encouraging, and I think it's, again, this is one of those, the bar is so low, because ultimately I don't think their wide receivers are high end, right? Right?
No.
But the fact that they're so much better than we were used to last year, we're like, well, at least they have NFL caliber receivers, and you see that they have a handful of them. So it's a big difference in the offense. Daniel Jones looks a lot more comfortable in the offense, which is what you expect in year 2. And I think we all respect Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka and what they kind of bring to the table. So it should be a better offense. I still don't think it's a top 5 offense. Like
Sure.
I don't think we should expect that. We have to keep it in perspective.
Right.
But there's a lot of things. Like, also, as we sit here taping this, it's Monday.
Yeah.
We didn't have a full camp day where there's pads.
Yeah, but
So it's usually it's a glorified passing camp so
It is,
far.
yeah.
But that
so
even helps the defense to where it's like it's pretty tipped off that they're going to be throwing the ball. And I think shoulder pads and full pads don't make too much of a difference to me in practice because they're not tackling already. But
But when you get banged, when I say that, like you get hit at the line of scrimmage, and you get when you're wearing full pads, like it'll be interesting to see how Jalin Hyatt responds to getting banged around a little bit by NFL players, right? Even though he's not getting tackled. And then the difference is, then when you get to the line of scrimmage on the next play, are you really running quite as fast? Like, are you running at full speed? So I think it is different on how you carry yourself and how your body reacts to being. You can't say tackled because nobody really gets tackled out here, but absorbing contact in some capacity.
Somebody clip out when you get banged, by the way.
when
Bang bus, got bang.
Waller,
It's getting out of hand here.
obviously Waller has, like, the addition has been seen, like, be fruitful through the first 5 days. And it's like, okay, this guy's a star player. Mm-hmm. It fits here as well. It's just, can he play in all the games or as many games as possible? So we know we have that. But now the wide receiver room, the fun conversation of the offseason is like, well, which receiver steps up as, like, the top guy? Who do you see that being through the first 5 days?
It's clear that they like Paris Campbell.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. They really like Paris Campbell. And he's a real player in this league. He had close to 700 yards last year, which isn't anything special, but, like, his thing is always he's the same as Waller. Can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
But he's a real player in this league. He's got speed. He could play. If he stays healthy, I could see him. Remember, Richie James led this team in receptions last year from the slot. Paris Campbell looks like their number one slot guy. Out of all these guys that they have, I mean, it looks like they want to play him in the slot, use him in different spots. You see him in the backfield. You see him in motion.
Absolutely. And, I mean, we saw today for him be targeted down the field for the first time.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like every year we have this conversation about which receiver this. And at the end of the year, we're always looking at Darius Slayton leads the team in receiving yards, and he's had the second most catches after Darren Waller, from Daniel Jones at least, and he's been able to create explosives where it's like, man, once again, I think Slayton, what's up? This is a truck that sucks everything up.
The street sweeper.
Yeah.
Sucks up all the fun.
It's kind of crazy when you watch it go over the puddles.
A word?
But Slayton is just like he's the one creating big plays. So, can Campbell lead him in
still
receptions
gonna be in the
and
mix,
stuff,
though.
but I think Slayton's going to be the one who has the most yards out of the receiving corps.
Mm-hmm. Now, who's the odd guy out? Because that's really that's what I'm kind of going through in my head right now through camp. And I don't know if you mean by who gets cut, but somebody is going to make the team, and maybe they would have gotten X amount of targets last year, but they're not going to get them this year in this year's offense.
Yeah, one of the big questions is where does Sterling Shepard fit into the mix? And then where does Wan'Dale Robinson fit in the mix when he gets healthy,
October,
which he is not right now. So
when is he coming back? Because we've heard he looks decent on the side, but then some people say he'll start
October.
the season on PUP.
I think he's 7 months out right now, right? 7 or
when was the Lions
8.
game?
I think he got the surgery. Maybe it was actually in early December.
Okay.
So you're talking about what 8 months? 8 months.
Sure.
So. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that you bring him along slowly. Their plan is not to rush him out there.
Especially if they have the depth, right?
Yeah, and so you won't see him back on the practice field probably for another month-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So start on PUP, bring him along slowly. Sure. Yeah, I think September, October is probably late September, early October is probably realistic timeline for him at this point.
Yeah. Can I talk about structure of practice? Speaking of guys working their way back from injuries and stuff like that. So I think one of my major takeaways from camp, and I haven't seen a ton of people talking about this, so this may just be my brain and how it works, and that's a wonderful thing, right? So one of the things that I've really noticed is the structure of
Crazy genius, right?
The structure of the practices.
Einstein over here.
And
Baby Einstein.
Even take, for example, tomorrow, so Tuesday, 5 p.m. practice. Wednesday's an off day. That's something we didn't see last year, where Dable's spacing out the practices. Today was a 10 a.m. practice, tomorrow 5 p.m. They're, kind of spacing out the time of practices and stuff like that. I've also noticed that it doesn't seem like they're doing as much team, and we saw an intense practice on Tuesday where, they were running from one end to the field to the next. We haven't seen that so far, plus also the new field. And I think the new field and the injury list and the injury report has been minimal compared to years past. So
here comes the street sweeper again.
There you go. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have players been talking about the new surface and the new field and
Yeah, they think the new surface is more forgiving and softer. I've talked to a bunch of guys about that. As far as the time change, so we've asked Dable about this a couple times, and his answer is very wishy-washy. It's like, well, there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah, well, we get it.
Yeah,
can you explain what that is?
Because clearly there's something.
But I think the general gist of it is just giving their bodies maximum time to rest in between practices. So today is Monday, right? Yep. They have this practice. They're done noon. Let's say it's even before noon, really.
Yeah. Everything's been like an hour and a half.
And then so now they have 17 hours. In between, I think they found something that extra time helps guys
and then with the
their
off
ability to regenerate and get their body back up to speed, and then I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and they're not doing any fully padded practices until day 6, which is very, very rare. It seems like it's always a day 4 thing, right?
Well, Daboll is known, by the way, to run a very liberal light program. You know what I mean? Like during the season, I think their first meeting is 8:00. In training camp, their first meeting at some days is 9:00.
Yeah.
Like that's unheard of in most places. This isn't like, one of these old school training camps where they do 2 days and they have to all be in it. They have a 7:00 meeting. He's known to have this, I don't want to say country club because when he's out on the field, they're intense. He's a lunatic. At times, like when he's yelling and screaming. Did you see him screaming at the third team at the end of that practice today?
Bobby Johnson's very involved too. Very involved.
He's a very animated guy.
Yeah.
But no, Dable wants to. I think his goal is to be more efficient with your time and get better. More focused reps than just get more reps or be in longer.
Right.
Be better with your time rather than just be in all the time.
Yeah, sure.
Do some rookie talk. Jalin Hyatt starting to get a little more involved in the first team. And we've seen one of my big questions that going into this year was Hawkins. because like Hodgins was a godsend last year, but now that you add wide receiver depth and they're trying to be more explosive, Hodgins doesn't always fit that, but he's going to be good in the red zone. And we've seen Hodgins out of the main three guys be the least involved out of all of them by a good chunk. Like Campbell and Slayton have been more involved than him. Obviously Waller, where he's like kind of fourth man. And they obviously want to get Hyatt involved. Like, have you heard anything about how they plan to bring Hyatt along?
My line, first of all, they don't want to throw too much on his plate, from what I understand, right? That's counterproductive, especially for a rookie, right? But so he brings certain skills to the table. I mean, that speed.
Yeah.
When you watch him on the field, I was saying today, when he runs, it doesn't even look like he's working that hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the gazelle, like the really long, just like. But holy cow, he is fast. Like you could see him, and you saw. I think he ran an end around today.
Yeah, with a 13, Chris Myrick leading the way, by the way. And he's a hands catcher too, which is like a lot of times these speedy mid-round guys is like they don't catch the ball with the hands. He really goes out and snags it.
Yeah. So, but you could see they want to use him to his ability, and I think it's sort of like their idea last year with Kadarius Toney before that went off the rails, right? And he just wasn't healthy ever. Is all right. They were gonna use him like 10 to 15 snaps a game, basically.
Yep.
But in specific plays to try to hit a big play here or there in specific formations, maybe out of the backfield. They build in a package that week for it. I think that's what you're going to see with him early on. And I know we've seen more in training camp the last couple of days, and he's looked much better. He's actually looked really good the last couple of days, hitting big plays, making a couple tough contested catches, which that actually has stood out to me because I think that's the thing we don't really know about him. Like, he's super skinny.
Yeah.
Right? Look at him, you see him, he's built very frail.
Yeah.
You look at him next to Flott, and he looks skinny too. Like even other skinny guys, he looks skinny.
Flott, it's his legs. Hyatt, you could like see it in his arms too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but like if he can make tough catches and contested catches, like he'll end up being a star.
Yep.
Now, like I said, let's see what happens when they put pads on and when he starts getting hit around and that'll be more difficult for him, I think, and that's why you don't want him playing 30, 40 snaps early in his career this year. I don't think that would be productive for anybody, to be honest with you.
There's still things that need to grow. Like the first day when they were doing red zone, you could see it's like this is an unrefined route runner. But with him, what he has going against it for him is like, well, who on this receiver is just really refined in most areas where it's like I feel like they're going to try and get him, like you said, those a certain amount of plays per game until they feel comfortable giving him
that's why I think Hodgins fits that role, right?
Yeah.
He's that role.
Hodgins is that red zone guy.
He's the red zone guy, short yardage guy, like possession type guy, and it's good because they need that because I get it. They want to be more explosive, and you need those explosive players, but to have a complement to that, I think is valuable too, because Slayton's a downfield guy. Hyatt's a downfield guy. Campbell's a guy who has big-time speed. He's not a downfield guy, but he's a big play guy. Like, you want to get him in open space. Yeah. So I think to have Hodgins as a mix to that is a good thing. Great. And he doesn't – I don't think you want him to be the guy catching 6 or 8 balls a game. No. Make 2, 3, 4 tough, necessary catches to move the chains.
Yeah, for sure.
That's, I think,
and that's when we saw him best was when they were working on red zone. Like that's when he had his best day. Was that first day working?
Because he's the best route runner out of these guys.
Absolutely.
You can see it. You can see it out there. Hyatt is definitely a little raw in that regard.
Let me even ask you this too. This is a couple days ago because Hyatt's had much better the last couple days, but I think they've been asking him to do stuff that is towards his strengths, which is being targeted 20+ yards down the field and showcasing the speed. Couple days ago, he showed like a little bit of frustration, and Dable had to kind of go up to him and talk to him. Him and Wandale have been communicating a lot on the side, and then since then they've given him more first-team reps and also just more plays where he's being used more towards his strength. Was there any kind of? Did you guys anybody on the beat ever ask like, hey, Hyatt showing a little bit of motion? Was that any like a talking point that was inside the building among you guys?
Not really.
Not really.
That's not really something that was touched upon.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think early on, their goal is just keep it simple for him.
Yeah, and they are coaching him up a lot. A lot of players have been talking with them.
I don't know if you saw, so
coaches
he
are
hit that big belly today. Dable, he was on the sideline. Dable got him to come back out. Basically had him come back out and just
Nice.
good job. Give him a smack on the butt or whatever.
Nice.
It
Yeah. We've talked a lot of offense on the defensive side. You've been to a lot of camps. You've seen a lot of rookie corners and a few first-round rookie corners. What is Trey Hawkins was on Monday. I'm like, man, this is really fun watching him play well. But it's like, are we just getting excited because it's camp? And then they put him with the starters today. And then Deonte Banks had his best day, but the first 4 days were
Trey Hawkins got a little reality check, a little bit. They were throwing passes to his side of the field pretty consistently.
Yeah, they weren't doing as much man cover. But the one that he really gave up was the Paris Campbell touchdown. But that was a perfect ball. But with Deonte Banks, which that's going to be more important. He's the first round pick. They traded up for him. What is your thought process on him? Because it's not like he's just having a rough camp. He was flat out. If you said who was the worst performer through 4 days, it was Deonte Banks.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ignore it.
No,
because you see it with your own eyes, and it's happening, and you're like, okay, teams are going to pick on him if this is the case. I mean, they're going to say, well, we can have success. And look, rookie cornerbacks generally struggle. What Sauce Gardner did last year is not the norm.
He's also not a top 15 pick either.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. People are like, well, Sauce Gardner did it. People, guys can do it. Well, yeah, I get it. Guys can do it. But that guy's special, obviously. That just shows you how good he is. He came in day one and was an instant stud. Banks is getting picked on left and right. I mean, it has not been good. Today was a better day. But I wouldn't make too much of it because you almost expect rookie cornerbacks to have their ups and downs. So he's going to have his bad moments, and we've seen them some early here. He'll have his good moments eventually, but I think that's what this year's about for him. It's going to be about learning. I mean, he's facing receivers, a level of competition that he doesn't face on a regular basis.
And also the Giants receivers
even
are
in
better.
the Big 12, 10.
Yeah, and even the Giants receivers are better, compared to years past too. So
for him, it's about growth. We knew he was going to struggle as a rookie, anyways.
I mean, that's the difference. So you say you don't Trey Hawkins. It's not that big a deal. You didn't view that as it was a perfect throw. But that's the thing. The starters, the ones. Those perfect throws, the perfect passes, then the guy making the tough catch. That happens more often. So there's a lot. So where Deonte Banks is in there, he has a smaller margin for error. Whereas Trey Hawkins is then playing with the second team. The routes aren't as crisp. The throws aren't as good. They're not as hard. They're not as well placed. All that put together. So he then has a little more room for error.
I agree with Hawkins' hype being slow it down a little bit, but Banks wasn't just getting beat by perfect. Banks was getting made to look silly. There was unperfect. The two big Slayton plays we've seen in camp. One was he had him by 5 yards and the ball was slightly underthrown, but it's still a good throw. And then the other post route we saw
if the ball's out there, it was a touchdown. Easy. I mean, he basically
the post
stopped, came back, and still caught the ball.
The post route on Sunday, like you said, it was like Slayton was almost catching a punt. And it's been bad. It's just that's my can it just be can he have days like today? Build those up throughout.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on. I will say that's what you got to say about it. You can't just completely ignore it and be like, "Oh, he's young." No, it's something you got to keep an eye on. I mean, I wouldn't hit the panic button, but it's also something you can't completely ignore. Is he struggled? If he's starting this year, he's going to be the guy that the other teams are picking on. That's just the way it's going to be, right? I mean, and the slot position is still, I don't know, man. That
slot corner, See, Darnay has been really bad. Flott hasn't been good at all, besides maybe one day. And
he hasn't been great, so that's concerning.
Yeah. Flott was someone who I was the first or second day I was watching him really disrupt guys, and then besides that, it's been pretty bad for him.
So Art puts out. It was this morning. It was Monday morning that Art puts out that there's a good possibility that they could do a Dory in the slot, and then two rookies on the outside. Practice look, definitely.
They're just going to try it. I mean, I would be stunned if that's the way they go in this league. First of all, if you're a Dory Jackson, you're about to enter a contract year, you think you want to go play the slot?
No, you want to be covering wide receiver one.
No.
Especially when he's
I don't want him. I want him covering the best receivers on the outside.
Yeah, for sure.
You know who I like, actually, and I know he's actually playing safety now, is Nick McLeod. When he goes and covers in the slot, is really good. I think he's physical.
He's physical, dude.
I like Nick McLeod as a player. I think he just brings a lot of things. Now, he's learning the safety position. There were a couple of times they hit some big plays deep on him, it appeared, in the last couple of days. But
he had an interception from the safety spot.
Yeah, if they could use him in that sort of sub-package nickel type spot, I think he could be a good player for this team.
I wasn't really
a good contributor.
I wasn't taking McLeod serious when everyone was reporting about the OTAs and stuff.
in the spring,
and like I just wasn't. But today, like you mentioned it, he was like even Waller caught the ball on one, but he was like physical, more physical than anyone I've seen out here with the receivers, and I thought that was pretty interesting, especially at safety.
They like
so
to
wide
use
open.
him in that nickel type sub package, guarding guys on the inside kind of deal. So I think that's the whole idea of him playing safety. Yeah. Now the other part of playing safety, he's learning, but I don't think that's necessarily what they're probably going to use him as ultimately, right?
Yeah, I don't think he has a starting spot, but will compete to get playing time.
But I'm just saying that could be a solution to their slot problem, at least somewhat, because I don't know how good would you feel if Cordell Flott or Darnay Holmes are your starting slot right now?
Okay, so Darnay, that's actually brought that up. Started day 1, started day 3 with the battle. Today was with the third team.
And he struggled with the third
that contract, they gave him a shot to be that. Are we now going from, hey, we're going to let you compete with slot to where now you might be on the chopping block to save $1.5 million?
Well, I thought that was always an option. If he wasn't going to win the slot spot, he always was going to be on the chopping block.
I thought if he was the second string, they're in a good enough cap spot to not have to cut a guy who would be their second string guy.
Well, I guess the Andrew Thomas thing actually gave them money. That was like they needed to make a move to find money.
Yeah.
And so that was.
It didn't give them as much money as people initially reported.
It was like less than $1 million,
because
right?
it initially was reported as $5 million, and then it's like only $1 million.
But with the Dex, they don't need a ton of money, though.
Yeah. No, they don't. I'm at the point.
They need a little bit. They need a little bit.
With my brain, I get to like August, and I
haven't gone over the cap situation exactly since we started camp here, but
I worry about the cap from March to end of July, and then when August comes, it doesn't exist for me, even though that's not.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about they were talking about adding pieces that are costing like hundreds of thousands of dollars at a pop, each pop. So it's not a big deal in season, but you do need something, and they're gonna have to. I mean, you could always, I guess, move some Daniel Jones's money around, stuff like that. So
right, yeah. So full pads haven't gone on yet. I'm really excited for that. So then we can talk more front seven and stuff like that. But we talked so much Waller throwing the ball, everything like that. Ooh, you heard that? That's nice. What are some things that you're watching, analyzing, talking about, writing about, whatever that maybe everybody else isn't? Something you got your eye on.
Well, obviously the Waller thing was, like you said, that's like the number one thing. Like I've come away with like the early part of camp is like this guy is legit. I mean, he's a freak. I mean, I'm also interested about that safety spot. I actually came into it. I know he made that great play yesterday, and it just so happened I was talking to him on that day anyway. But Jason Pinnock as that second safety, to me, he's a clear favorite. He's the guy that they had hoped would step into that role, and reason why they thought that they could allow Julian Love to go, because they're like, this guy, we think he can play at in this league. He is a really, really good athlete. So that's kind of like the one position battle I don't think gets as much juice. Like,
I think it's the most wide open out of all the other ones.
I don't know. Nickel corner might be now.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know.
Inside linebackers, just two guys, and on top of that is how much are they going to play with the two inside linebackers?
See, I'm tired of people saying that. They even last year with bad linebackers, they always play with two inside. Like they have their packages, but every game, besides the Panthers, they always play with two linebackers.
How often though? 40,
like
50%?
70% of the game. It's very rare to not have two linebackers on the field. That's been a wink. It's not as much as this.
I got to look at the numbers. I thought it was closer to 50.
When Brian Dable came over, and it's like the Bills ran the most 10% personnel in the NFL. It's like, yeah, but that was like 15 plays throughout the whole year. No one runs 10 personnel. Now, Wink does it obviously more than that, but the second linebacker matters to me, and it's going to be a bad player probably. Finish off with this. What is your record prediction for the 2023 New York Giants?
Did you look up what I said last year?
I believe it was 6-11.
I think that sounds right. I think that was probably my number.
You were wrong.
I was wrong.
Yeah, that was my record prediction too, though. So
Wow, wrong.
It's not. Let me tell you this. Here's what I'm going to do for you. Ready? I'm going to give you a record prediction, and here's my one. I will guarantee this. I will be wrong again. Yep, that's right. I will probably be wrong again.
ESPN
Typical
Raanan is
ESPN
wrong.
saying things on wrong for saying things they don't believe for clicks.
No, I believe it. But the reality is this league is a crazy league. I think I'll probably go 8 and 9.
Ooh. See, that could end up being right, but
Which, by the way, is the over. Vegas is the over-under, by the way. You see what it's at?
I thought it was at 9.5.
7.5.
7.5? Oh my God, I'm hammering.
There's no respect for the Giants.
It was 7.5
last year.
7.5 or 8.5.
It was 7.5 last year. It's 7.5 this year.
Oh, I'm going over.
I'm writing that down. I'm
Going
putting that in our
over.
Google Doc right now.
What?
The record prediction
My
for
8 and
the
9. So I'm picking the over.
You're an optimist. You're an optimist.
I mean, look, this schedule is tough.
It's tough.
It's so much tougher. Like Vegas knew last year they had an easy schedule. That's why last year we were like 7.5 wins for this roster.
Oh my God,
And
that's great.
Guess what? They covered.
You play the AFC
They covered.
South.
What's crazy is
They played
last
the AFC
year.
South. They swept the AFC South.
Yep, swept the AFC.
The crazy thing last year is like the over was like picked for the Giants because of like Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, and then they got absolutely nothing out of those guys.
That's true. So the schedule is just it's much harder. And on top of that is do we think, and you want to be optimistic about the Giants, I get it. I think they're a better team. Doesn't necessarily might not equate to a better record. Tell me this. Do they have more talent than the Eagles right now?
No.
Do they have more talent than the Cowboys right now?
No.
So you stole my point, and that is my
Makes
biggest.
it hard for me to sit here and be like, they're winning 10 games.
That's my biggest worry with the Giants. It's not the one possession games they won last year. It's that they are clearly the third best team in their division on paper, and like you said, it's hard to predict a ton of success for that. But
Right, that's 6 games, right, in that division. I'm counting Washington. Which, by the way, I think Washington's roster, and I told you this last year, I think it's really good, except the quarterback position.
Right, and that does matter.
That's a big thing. Yeah, it's a huge thing. But the roster, it's not like they stink.
Right.
They're not like, okay, you automatically beat them twice.
Right.
Like, they're still a pretty good roster, and they give the Giants hell because their strength is the interior of their defensive line or their defensive line in general, and the Giants' weakness, and it probably hasn't changed. You feel any better about their interior of their offensive line?
I haven't got the chance to actually just watch John Michael Smith by himself, but no, whenever there's pressure,
there was no
coming
pads
from the
yet,
interior.
so you don't
So
give a full evaluation of alignment until there's pads, but
Right.
that's going to be a weak spot of this team. And nothing against John Michael Schmidt, but rookie year, it's unlikely he's going to come in and dominate. If he's average center and that's a win
good.
for a rookie. Yeah.
you were talking. This is the last question. I have been waiting for one-on-ones to really put any weight behind this. Evan Neal looks better though.
I thought he looked better, and then today I thought he had a little bit of a rough day. But again, I don't want to see. You made me say that now. I don't want to even say anything about linemen. Coaches always tell you, like, we don't do evaluations until they put pads on.
Yeah.
And so until they put pads on, I don't want to say anything. Because also,
and that's why I've been
also,
waiting.
Bobby, I don't want to say anything that he's been better or worse because I remember people came out here like Eric Flowers looks better, and I'm thinking to myself, he doesn't look better. He looks terrible.
Yeah.
Olivier Vernon, when he wanted to, would just throw him 10 yards in the backfield and just walk to the quarterback. It was like it was a joke. So people get excited. You got to see it with pads, and we need to really pay attention. I intend to one day in the next week focus on Evan Neal and see how he's doing. Because if he's not great, if he's not improved significantly, that line is in trouble.
Oh, the offense.
The whole offense is in trouble.
The offense is like floor and ceiling. I feel like is wrapped up in Evan Neal specifically, because it's like like they're gonna be having to manufacture a lot of stuff if Evan Neal struggles. If he's good, then the coaching staff gets to do a lot of things that they didn't really get the chance to do last year, like putting guys in conflict down the field. But we have Darren Wallace, so everything's fixed. That's Jordan. What do you got coming up the pike on your podcast?
I got it. It was supposed to drop. I don't know what happened. I think my producer fell asleep this morning or something. Jason Pinnock. Just my early observations of training camp with a little talk from Jason Pinnock. After
like him.
it was done after his huge interception yesterday too. So
Nice.
he was pretty
buzzed
excited.
up.
Said he had a 40-inch vertical.
I think he did. I mean, he had a really good combine.
That's a good number for a safety, 40 inches.
Are they able to
Former
track
corner.
all that?
Moving to safety.
I think Shepard had a 43-inch vertical, if I remember right.
He did. I think it was 42,
a huge
43
number.
inches.
Like bigger than Odell.
Better athlete than Odell?
I don't know about that.
That's what Jordan Raanan just said. Put that on the headline.
All right, we'll see you.
Are you going to win the Tony Award this year?
What do I need to do?
I think we're changing it to a where we just pick it.
Yeah, we may dictator.
So break a lot of news.
Dictator this shit.
We're not doing this by favorites. We're literally just be the best at your job.
He started off. He cut off dictator, and he was just like dick.
We're gonna be dicks.
Yeah, that's what I thought he was saying.
Right now, I'd say Dunleavy might be the favorite.
Wow, right in front of Jordan's face.
Dunleavy?
Yeah.
He's such an a-hole on Twitter. How do people?
But it's not about being a good person. It's about being the best reporter.
It's the award title.
I'm friendly with him. I say that jokingly. I tell that to him to his face. Like he's got to work on that Twitter persona.
Well, part of me kind of likes that instead of just pandering to the fan base. At least, even when I disagree with them, it's like at least you're not afraid to do it.
I'm just pandering to Saquon Barkley. What are you talking about?
That's true.
He must
genuinely
believe the value of running backs.
Yeah, I think he believed. Yeah. And he was the only one who came on the show and admitted that he was uncomfortable interviewing Kadarius Toney last year.
I mean,
all right. Well, that's an interview. We'll see you. Are you going to Detroit?
I am not.
All right. Well, we won't see you in Detroit. We'll see you
in Detroit.
We'll see
join us in the van.
We don't do road preseason games. So
you literally can ride with us in the van to the practices.
We have an Airbnb. I'll sleep on the couch. You get the bed.
That's a legit offer. If you want, you could just
I can't do that. Though.
Right. Okay. All right. We'll see you.
That's such a bad precedent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that. ESPN.
You don't do that.
Congrats on surviving.
Wow.
Well, we had layoffs too. We had layoffs too. It's okay.
You know why?
I don't even want to know. I don't want to say anything.
What's Pat McAfee like?
Talking.
That's an interview. All right,
that's
done.
an interview.
Stop,
Thank you, Jordan
Raanan.
All right, thank you to Jordan Raanan for coming on in the van. Not coming on. Ooh, that's tough. Coming in the van with us to talk some Giants football. Bobby Skinner, did you hear Jordan Raanan farted at one point?
Mm-hmm.
Big fart.
Tone deaf.
Tone deaf. Tone deaf fart. I thought it was going to be a silent one. We have something to talk about first before we head out of here. Shop.johnboymedia.com, our store. You can find a whole bunch of John Boy Media stuff on there. If you're a baseball fan, they're working with the MLB PA and the Players Association, so you can get the faces and the names of all your favorite players, but even our store too. Wink Martindale, I don't know I think we told this story. Wink Martindale likes our shirts, our Pressure Breaks pipe shirts with Wink's face on it. Everybody likes Wink with the chain. It says Wink on. He's wearing the sunglasses, the hat. So Pressure Breaks pipes. We have an Awards Now shirt for Andrew Thomas. We have a Danny Dimes shirt, and we have a whole bunch of Talking Giants stuff as well. I love our draft hoodies. It's personally my favorite thing every year. So shop.johnboymedia.com. You'll be glad you did when you buy our merch and help us make money.
You'll be glad you did. All right, so we will be back tomorrow with player profiles and projections.
Yes,
Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All the camp recap live streams. Those have been really fun to do. Again, make sure you come say hi to us at camp. Anything else, Justin, before we get out of here?
That's it. Let's get out of here.
All right, we'll see you guys when we see you. Until then, let's go Big Blue.